This is my 2000 Celica GT, and this is the belt tensioner that I'm going to be using to replace the current one with, along with all of these fancy tools down here. And I'll be following this YouTube tutorial linked in the description. First step, get this nugget out of the way. Yeet. This is the part where you use this 19mm bit to relieve stress on the serpentine belt, but for me, can I use the flashlight here? For me, that piece is stripped out entirely, which is the main reason why I'm even replacing this. It's also why I have a second belt on hand, because I'm going to try not to cut that belt, but if I have to cut it, I will. It's also why I have a second belt on hand. In the video they had a long 17mm wrench. My plan is to use a flare nut wrench, which kind of long enough, but I just need to get a leverage on it. The next plan here is loosen the motor mount bolts, which these were on really tight for some reason. Or at least that's just the first one that was on very tight. And then there's actually one underneath the power steering reservoir, but I am missing it, and I think I would have to remove the reservoir to even get to that, but I don't want to do that, and I'm missing that bolt anyway, so it doesn't matter. The second one was not actually as tight as the first one, even though they both have red thread locker on them from the factory. And now I'm going to jack it up from the safest point with what I have, with a hydraulic jack and the oil pan with two. These were like, I don't know what size these were, but I glued these two pieces of wood together. I got this plank of wood from Home Depot in a little basket that said 70% off. I paid $2 for it, cut it in half, and construction glued it together, and then now it just allows me to lift up the engine. And actually, both of these are 1.5 inches together. It would be recommended to have like a 2x6 or a 4x4, but this is all I got. I haven't loosened any nuts or bolts on the tensioner yet, just the motor mounts. So what I'm going to do is lift up the motor and give you the shot that they gave you in the other video to see if the bolt clears. Hopefully this works. Hopefully the jack is in the right spot. Oh, is it working? Alright, so my main concern is I actually did this before unbolting the motor mount, and then the entire car was going up instead of just the engine. Now I'm hearing some stuff happen. I don't know if it's good stuff, but it's stuff. Like, oh, the jack just slipped. Nice. Well, it's a good thing nothing's happened yet, so I'm going to relieve tension on the jack. That sucks. I wonder if the motor even lifted. Oh, it did, yeah, because now the threads are misaligned on the motor mount. It's crazy. I swear, if I were to do this without filming, I'd get it done a lot quicker, but I want to film. But, like, just look how bad this motor mount is. Wait. For one, it is actually fully compressed and it sits on itself right there, this little spot. And for two, it's so smooth and wiggly. It's not supposed to be like that. And for three, the motor, I fixed it, the jack is on the... Clicking the volume up button on my phone stops the video recording. Sorry about that cut. Got the jack in the right spot. The motor is lifting a little bit and is leaving some clearance for the bolts. I'm not going to be able to show that on camera with the light that's happening, as you could see, which is also why I have that video linked in the description, which is the one I'm following. I'm just trying to make sure that bolt clears without damaging my oil pan.
Edit here. If you're gonna do this belt tensioner job, there are these power steering lines, this one on screen, and then there's one underneath it. They are held in with a bracket. Try to remove that bracket first. That will make moving these lines around so much easier, and these lines do need to move out of the way to get to some of these nuts and bolts. These lines suck, but they can be moved.
So in that video, he has a Corolla, which has a wider engine bay, or at least from the frame to the engine side. With this engine, or this car, and even worse on the 2ZZ since it's a little bit bigger, there's not a lot of clearance. I know you're not supposed to use a torque wrench to break anything, or to break loose any bolts, but it's the only thing I have, and I have more torque wrenches, and it'll be fine. Also, it's tight on there, man. Like, I'm putting my full body weight into this. I don't even have I'm pretty sure I should have this loosened, but I don't want to do anything with this. I don't want to cut the belt until I can confirm that I can take this off. Yeah, it's fun. Hey, but I did it. These power steering lines right here that have like a good inch or two of clearance to the frame, those are not, those, jeez. These two lines right here don't flex very much. There's a smaller line underneath this larger one, but they don't flex very much, and that's almost a hard line, which I had to go back here. There's this 10mm bolt right there. Had to loosen it just a little bit so that way the hard line could flex. And I could barely even fit the torque wrench on here. I was not getting that loose with the flare nut wrench, but now I get to take the torque wrench off and loosen the rest of the way. A maybe 1 hour job turned into a lot longer than 1 hour. So this hard line that's underneath the soft line, there's a mount down there with a 10mm. I had to get a few extensions with a swivel socket and a 10mm to get it, and now the hard line's a little more flexible. Before you do any of this work at all, try your very hardest to get this power steering line mount out of the way, because this thing was such a loser to take care of, and I just dropped the freaking screw. I'm not even going to remove, I don't even want this mount in here, like, screw that mount. This power steering mount is the one thing that makes these lines not flexible, and I hate this thing so freaking much. I wouldn't recommend doing this unless you absolutely know that you can get another belt on there. Yeah, don't try that at home. Two things. Here's the old belt that I had to cut. It was actually like fairly new, but I bought another one just in case I had to cut that. It's alright. But then take a listen to this. Here's the idler pulley. That's not supposed to be like that. That's not supposed to be like that. Oh my goodness. And then here's the new one for reference. Oh, the idler pulley is bad. And then that just comes out, and then that just comes out. I think I got to through the top. It'll feed out some way. Dude, this is a large bolt. This is probably one of the largest bolts I've ever removed from my car. Jeez. Oh, that is. I did not expect it to be that bad. The old belt tensioner. It should not be making all the noises it's making, and that I can. Oh wait. I can't even flex that. There's the new one. There's the old one. Vertical shot as well. The plastic bushing on the inside, I can feel it cracking with every turn. And then this, beyond cracked and beyond destroyed, you can see the hydraulic piece in there. And then the bearing. Plus some play in it. Other than not knowing if the bearing was bad or not, the main reason I was replacing this, which is also why I didn't do this correctly, is the serpentine belt. So where you put the 19mm on here to relieve tension. Yeah, this is stripped out entirely, and I couldn't fit anything on there to get it working. So I had to cut the belt, which is also why I bought that new belt down there. I do not have a taller angle with my tripod, so what I'm just doing now is feeding the pulley in there, similar to how I got the old one out. The bigger part with the big bolt will line up in there somewhere, and then the smaller part will fit onto this stud that's on the head of the engine. And I probably should put the bolt in there with the tensioner. So let me try to fit the bolt in there somehow. Here's the bolt, by the way. I genuinely think this is the largest bolt I've ever removed from my engine, and thank goodness the threads are freaking beautiful. A little bit not beautiful, like right there's a tiny bit of scorching, but like, other than that, it's obviously a good bolt, so 17 millimeter. This thing is freaking huge. Going off the tripod once again for this shot. The bolt was able to just wrap underneath the power steering lines and get in there. Now it's a matter of playing around with the tensioner, trying to find the thread hole, because it's not possible to see it now. So just play around with it, reverse thread it, that way you don't cross thread, and then start getting it in by hands. And then the torque spec for the 1ZZ is 51 foot-pounds on this main bolt, and then 21 on this one, on this stud, or this nut right here. Which that one video for the guy with the curl, that's the video I'm following to even begin with. But got the torque wrench that's at 51 foot-pounds. With the power steering lines out of the way, thank goodness they can move now. Get the torque wrench on there, and then it's not fully snug yet, so I just needed to use the torque wrench to like fully snug it and then torque it down. There we go, snug, and then this is a good angle? It's a fine angle. Let me get the camera in there though, just that way it's a better angle. Get off the tripod. 51's a lot from this angle. Wow. I did not use any thread locker, no thread locker required. There, 51 on the main bolt. This stud goes to 252 inch-pounds, but this one, the only torque wrench I could fit in here, goes to 200 maxed out. I'm just gonna torque it down to 200 and then snug it up with this tiny one. That's that way I don't break my torque wrench. I don't know the difference between 200 and 250, so I'm just make sure it's as tight as I can get it by hand. And then those, the main bolt and the other bolts that are on there. As much as I want to replace the bad motor mount while I'm here, this was mainly practice to use the hydraulic jack, because I've never actually used a hydraulic jack before, and I've never lifted my engine before, so this was the first time for both, and I just wanted to test it out. Anyways, the motor mounts will be separate videos whenever I feel like it. With both of those, I'm not going to put the belt on right now. I'm just going to lower this carefully. Ooh, it actually lined up nicely with that. Ooh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. The bolt holes lined. Oh, that one lined up perfectly, but that one did not. I'm pretty sure I could just like physically push that over like the guy did in the video. One motor mount bolt lined up perfectly. That was like a good 15 to 20 minutes of wrestling with this. So I think the threads on the chassis side are kind of stripped out, but I managed to line it up without cross-threading. And then that one went in smoothly. And the third motor mount bolt, I'm going to install that whenever I do the motor mounts, because motor mounts and that third bolts, it would never existed to begin with, so I had to get one from a junkyard, so it'll be fine. As for this, I want to try to route the belt without taking off the tire, which I think I can easily do. Yeah. The torque for these bolts here, which I'm gonna use the swivel sock with it, 38 foot-pounds. Also keep in mind I did lower the motor and tighten the bolts, so those are correct on there. This my socket keeps on coming off. Thank goodness it just falls straight to the floor. There's no rush for it to fall, but like 38 is not easy, or at least not with the swivel. Not with this thing. Oh my god, that felt monstrous there. Let me try to get a better camera angle for this next one. This tripod is not doing me any favors right now. Yeah, my arm is mainly gonna be in the way. I'm sorry. Especially that the chassis side threads are screwed. I'm just gonna trust that that's enough, because that's also not coming out. That's never coming out. Good news, I didn't have to take off the wheel. Less good news, I had to get into the car to do this, but it's fine. I got it all routed, and the last one that needs to go on is the alternator. And to get that, I actually have the thing available now. I can actually use the tensioner. The tensioner was the main reason I wanted to even replace this to begin with. I mean, I'm pretty sure well, I now know that pulley was bad, but like, it's mainly the tensioner. So I got this, you could use a serpentine belt tool that you could get for like 20 bucks on Amazon, but I have a half-inch breaker bar with a stubby 19mm. That's the only thing I was able to get to fit in here, especially with the power string line in the way. And now that's not going to strip, hopefully. It just takes a lot of force. A lot of force. Am I doing this right? Yeah, well, I am. I just suck at this, that's all. I have what I like to call a little friend. This is how I'm going to do it. Oh, let's hope this will even hold. A little more. Come on. A little more. Is it maxed out? If it's maxed out and I can't get it, what the heck? I may still just be bad at this. This is the demotivating shit that makes me not want to work on my car. I broke it. It broke. I couldn't get the belt on. And it broke. My car, undrivable now. Shit. What do I do? How do I get the fastest part? Where can I get the fastest part? I gotta do all this work again. Oh my god. For YouTube, it was like a second. For me, it was 2 days. I needed to source a part. Instead of going on Rock Auto or any of the parts stores nearby, I went on Amazon to get the fastest part I could, and I chose one that closest resembled the OEM one, or at least the OEM one from eBay. And also, this one's built a little bit nicer than the other one I had. Bearing a little bit tighter on it. This is a little bit more heavy, and it's the OEM look. This is becoming less of a tutorial and more of I just need to get this done so I can have my car. So I'm gonna break loose the 14mm for the motor mounts. Jeez, tight on there, especially since those threads may be a little effed. And then this 14mm back here. If you had the one underneath the power steering reservoir, you would need to get that too, but I don't. So, jeez, so tight. So with that, I have to get the bolts out, and then I got to get the non-bolt off of the tensioner, which I had to lift up the motor to do that first. I'm having an issue along with the tripod. Let me just take it off the tripod. The stud here that holds the nut in place is actually unscrewing out of the block, and like it's unscrewing all right, but like I'm just holding it with a pair of pliers while unscrewing the nuts. That way the stud stays in the block, or at least the cylinder head, because that's not supposed to come out. I mean, it can come out, and I just have to tighten it back down, but like I wasn't planning on that. I'm just gonna, yeah, because I'm spinning the stud. If I'm not holding it, I'm spinning it. I just don't want the stud coming out. I just need the nut to come off. I wonder if I could loosen it by hand. Great, now it's stuck in the wire. Now my socket's stuck in the wiring harness. Great. This stud here can easily come out. Like how easily, actually? Like all the way out. Yeah, I don't want it coming out, so I'm just gonna tighten that as much as I can. And I don't know the torque spec on that, so I'm just gonna tighten as much as I can to make sure it doesn't come out again. Part comparison: the one that I wanted to install and the one I'm going to install. This one I spent like 60 bucks on it. Bearing has some resistance, but this one has more resistance to it. This one didn't compress all the way, which is why I tried pulling it even harder, and then it snapped. And then this one feels a lot better actually, and it has the it looks like it'll work. Hopefully it'll work. Oh, also I'd like to mention, this one I paid 64, this one I paid like 34 on Amazon. I just needed a part as fast as possible. The belt is still in there, kind of. I want to remove the belt before doing anything else. It's just around some of the pulleys. Get the belt out of here. And then that stud, I don't have anything to tighten that stud down with. The serpentine belt's annoying. Get out. It gets stuck on everything. Get out. Get out of my face. And this, I can't tighten that down. I don't have a reverse Torx bit to do that with. So I'm just going to have to leave it the way it is. Which will be fine as long as I torque down the other thing. That won't come out. And this just goes in just like the old one came out. So the old one came out haphazardly, so I gotta... These power steering lines are the ultimate weapon. If you're gonna do this, remove the power steering lines first. It'll be so helpful if you do that. Yeah. Feed the stud on is what I'm gonna do first. I'm gonna feed the stud on first. Then I'm gonna feed the bolt in there, or at least attempt to. Where's the bolt? Here's the bolt. Once again, one of the largest bolts I've ever removed from this engine, or from this entire car. This thing is freaking huge. Just put the bolt in there. Never thought I'd put an Amazon part in my car, but look at us now. Look. Where's the bolt hole at? Technical difficulties trying to find the bolt hole. Is that it? Yep. And I did not reverse thread it. I didn't reverse thread it, didn't cross thread it, it just threaded in nicely. And it is threading it nicely. Yep. It's going in. I don't have any ratcheting wrench for this, or I don't even have a 17. Well, I do have 17mm, but it's not long enough to go all the way down here, so threading it by hand is the best course. Also, so 2 days ago I used the torque wrench to loosen this bolt. This time around I used a serpentine belt tool, which I rented a serpentine belt tool from Advanced Auto for like 60 bucks. I used that to loosen the bolts, and it worked out quite nicely, so having the right tools for the job is definitely essential. Like that 19mm I had with the breaker, but that was working fine. It's just this, the old part just didn't work. Or at least didn't want to work. I don't know. Anyways, going to get the serpentine belt tool with 19mm on it. This is what I got. This is a 3/8 right here. 3/8 to 19mm. That's a 17mm. I'm stupid. I need to tighten it down. Tighten it before I torque it. Can I still tighten it by hand from here? It's getting to the end of the thread, so no, I can't. 3/8 17mm. I got that tightened down. I just need to fit the torque wrench in there. This goes down to 51, I believe. All right. I don't think it's gonna rain at all. The clouds are looking cloudy, but not rainy, and the weather says it's not gonna rain. So, torque wrench at 51 foot-pounds, 3/8 to 17mm. Can my torque wrench fit in here? Yes, it can. I don't need to raise the engine up anymore. No thread locker, by the way. There we go. That feels good. And now for the 12mm. And from what I remember, I cannot go above 200 foot-pounds on this torque wrench that I have, this small one. So what I'm gonna do, which this threads in, it feels like there's just like some old grease on the threads of this, but like it's threading and it's not cross-threading and it's threading nicely. So I'm gonna tighten this down with this wrench. Then I'm gonna come back with the torque wrench, torque it down to 200 foot-pounds. That's the max the tiny one will go. I would get a bigger torque wrench in here, but I can't fit it due to the suction line being there. I don't know how well this camera angle is, but like I'm barely even able to fit this wrench in there. So I'm just gonna snug it down with this, then torque it down to 200, and then snug it down again just to be sure. Oh geez, I hope this. No, the part is not up against the. Oh, I thought the part was up against the side of the engine block. I was like, oh shit. So snug, just a little bit snug, not too much. And then come in with a torque wrench, 1/4 inch torque wrench set to 200 inch-pounds exactly. And then tighten that up. That's all I can fit in there. $200, and it goes to like 252 or 256. So just gonna come back in here and snug it up. That's all I can do. That's as much as I'm getting it by hand. Great, now the new belt tensioner's on there. Now I get to feed the serpentine belts through. I could probably gotta go into the car to do that. Actually, I should probably lower the motor first. Yeah, let me lower the motor first. I lowered it just enough to have the front motor or the passenger motor mount still wiggle. Also, if your motor mount wiggles this badly, I'm very tempted to just replace it right now since I can, but I'd rather get my car running first. That'd be great. So I'm going to keep this wiggling so I could thread these 2 bolts in there, and then I'm going to I'm just going to thread these in. I'm not even going to snug them up, just get them lined in the threads. Then I'm going to lower the motor all the way, torque down the motor mount bolts, and then get the belt on. For the 2 motor mount bolts, the one down here and the one up here, I would really recommend not dropping your 14mm sockets. I would recommend a 1/2-inch socket, or not 1/2 inch. Let me zoom out so you can see what I'm doing. 1/2-inch ratchet with I think there's like a 1 foot long extension. I don't even know where I got it from. And then a 1/2 inch to 3/8 adapter, and then 3/8 to 1/4 adapter, a swivel socket, and finally your 14mm. So that way you can, for one, if anything, the swivel socket. The swivel socket is super helpful. First thread until you feel the click. Or at least that way you know it's threading incorrectly, not cross-threading. Nope, that's cross-threading easily. This is going to be easily cross-threaded if you're not careful. There we go, now it's going in. I think is the motor lowered all the way? I don't know. Hey, 14mm, let's go. Now that I have experience unbolting this motor mount, I am very confident that I could replace it. And it's one video at a time, I'll replace it later on. I had to go back to that video to see the torque spec for the front bolts. 38 for these bolts, with a heck of a large torque wrench, and the motor is lowered, by the way. Lowered the motor, snugged up the bolts, 31 foot-pounds. Ah, jeez, it's tight. The shock, okay, last time I torqued this down, I had, I think, the 3/8 or the 1/4 inch, I don't know, I had a different torque wrench while doing this, I think, or at least the different socket. Oh shit, this is like stuck in there. Anyways, the shock I got from torquing these bolts down with the other thingy was not as bad as, well, it's not as good as this one. The shock I'm getting from torquing these ones down is fine. There we go. Torque. Those are all torqued down, and now I need to feed the belt in. Just in case. Just in case it was a me error for some odd reason. This time I'm going to be very careful. 19mm on the pulley. I need to switch the teeth around on this. It's either not. I had it like this before, or like this before, and the top of the bolt needs to line up like this. It is different. There we go. No, I want it the other way, actually. Oh, wait, I kind of had it the right time, the first time. I kind of had it, actually. Top of the thing lines up with the top of the thing like this. I was just trash, that's why. Yep. There we go. So, it's fully compressed. I just can't get the belt onto the alternator. That's my issue. I gotta figure out why I'm having that issue. Yeah, it's not gonna go any further. Gotta find out. This belt, I know this belt it's the one I had last time. It's the same belt I had last time. Alright, so a long time ago, I actually replaced my serpentine belt. It was a bitch to do without the belt tensioner being relevant, but I can't get this belt onto there without breaking anything, so what I did is, on the right is the new one I was trying to install, on the left is the one I kept for the past, like, few years now, and if I stretch them out just a little bit, they're roughly the same size, but the older one stretches a little bit more. Sorry for the horrible camera angle. So what I'm going to do is try to install the old belt, which this was a new belt to begin with whenever I owned the car. This maybe has not even 5,000 miles on it. It looks nice all around, or at least to me it looks perfect. So I'm going to install it. Alright, hear me out. It is a little more stretched out than the other one, but I can't get the other one on, and this one will go on. And it's still pretty tight on there. Honestly, I would rather this belt just be on. It's not as tight, but it is fine. It is on there. It is going to, let me just make sure all the ribs line up. And with everything bolted down, mounted appropriately, except for the power steering lines. I will have to mount those. I'm going to start the car. Everything's on the right rivets. Everything's on the right. Everything's right. I see no issues with this. I see no issues. And matter of fact, it idled really nicely. The old tensioner, let me see if I can dig it out of the trash real quick. I dug the old one out of the trash and it actually leaked. It leaked a lot since it was upside down. This is the old one. Listen to this bearing again. I spun the other bearing on my Instagram, you can see that there, but this one was bad, so yeah, that's gross. Oh, so yeah, this part was bad, this part was bad, this part was bad, so this part definitely bad, and like yeah, there's a chance that belt is a little more stretched out, but it's on there, it works, it's beautiful, it's fine, so I'm keeping it like that, and y'all can fight me. Honestly, this is why you keep I kept this belt for 3 years, and just last week I was contemplating throwing it away, and I'm glad I didn't, because it just, in Chris Fix's video, he said, put your old serpentine belt underneath your car seat, just in case anything happens, and I did that, and Chris Fix, you saved me a serpentine belt. Now there's all this hardware I gotta put back. That's gonna be fun. Just put all the power steering hardware back. This mounts in underneath in weird spots, I hate it. Everything's torqued down, everything's on there, car starts nicely. Trying to catch my breath here. I gotta clean up all these tools. I'm probably gonna return the old belt since I couldn't get it on there. There's a chance it may be the wrong belt. I ordered one for the GT for my car specifically, but who knows, maybe it just wasn't it. And I gotta put the hardware on, I gotta return that. That was $60, but I'm glad I borrowed it. Put all the old hardware on, put the engine cover back on, and that's it. This wasn't much of a tutorial, this was just me doing it.